Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Old
Six.
Bollocks. Yeah, I've done my research. Yeah. 6 comes right after 5, right? So it is I, Howard H. Smith, your host of Talking Bollocks, and also this podcast, Old Bollocks, and my good friend,
Old Head.
Old Head. We're settling on Old Head.
Sticking with Old Head. I decided that I like that better because I don't like my first name anyway. So I was able to make up Old Head. I'm going to stick with that.
Wow! Just a few seconds in, and already it's all about you.
That's how it normally is on my channel, you know. It's
just me. Yeah,
it's just me and the couple of British people I talk to.
Sounds like my Patreon. Welcome. Obviously, this comes to you from the Talking Bollocks podcast feed. It's episode 6, so you've had 5 of these. You know what's going on. But we've got a new feature this week, which we'll get to later. No classic album being reviewed this particular episode because you know what? We can do what the fuck we like. We've got all sorts of features coming and going. I'm not saying that we're not going to review a classic album next month. We might do, or we might do this new feature again. Who knows?
Plus, I think we've set the bar a little bit too high now doing Obnoxious last time because there's nowhere to go but down from there.
Well, that's so kind of you. That's so kind of you. So basically, we've got some new releases to chat about, and we've got a brand new feature as well, which I'm looking forward to the two of us talking about in the past. More about that later. This is like, yeah, as you said earlier, this is a bit like Inception. This episode. But I can't go any further without saying the Patreon, okay? You're getting movie bollocks on this podcast feed. You're getting regular Talking Bollocks. You are also getting old bollocks. So it's about time you signed up. Come on. Patreon.com/Howard H. Smith. My co-presenter here is a patron as well. Now, I'm not saying that if you sign up on Patreon, we're going to end up doing a podcast together, okay? But you're getting enough from me here. Throw a little cheese my way. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I get nothing for my shit. It's just, I get a little bit of ad revenue, but not much. It barely buys a tank of gas.
Wow. Well, yeah. So yeah. Well, look. You always say to me, "Go on, push your push your Patreon." But go ahead. Push all your channels and stuff.
I mean, you just go to YouTube, Old Head on YouTube, and also I have the Cranked and Ranked podcast with Eddie Sparks, and also I have merch, which you can access through my YouTube page, which is I'm pretty proud of some of it. It's pretty cool looking, and it helps support me if you're into what I do. But that's it. I've toyed with the idea of having a Patreon of my own, but I realized I would just be ripping off some of your ideas. So everyone would figure that out real quick, and I'm like, maybe I'll hold off on that till I have something original to throw their way.
Look, when you think of something original, yeah, let me know and I'll copy it. So look, and also, needless to say, wherever you're getting this, make sure you subscribe, and also look in the description. You'll see links. So if you're watching this on YouTube, then it's on Old Head's YouTube channel, and there's a link. If you're listening to this and you want to watch it, there's a link in the description, and there'll be links to the stuff that we talk about, etc. Some of it you're going to go, "Ooh, I like the sound of that," and others, maybe not. But hey, who knows? Now, just to be clear, Old and myself have already had a right old chin wag, and we've had a proper catch up. But we still have not mentioned at all to each other what albums we're going to be talking about or what we think of them. Although, to be honest, I think we're going to be talking about the exact same releases because I don't have anything new that I know you're not talking about. So I think it's going to be a united front on the reviews section.
I think I briefly mentioned the three I'm going to talk about to you last month, but
Yeah.
um,
I'm on board with
two
those
of them
three.
for sure are ones that. Well, I mean, let's just talk about them.
Do. Right, okay. Well, I'll as always, I'm going to let you lead off.
Let's and I brought as usual. I have
the vinyl by any chance.
I do.
This makes a great podcast, mate. It really does.
Yeah,
but people can hear about your vinyl.
Yeah. So the thing I want to say before we start this is, so far, I don't know how you feel, but so far 2022 musically speaking is really good for me, because so far pretty much every album that I was anticipating coming out within these first few months has been really good. And so that makes me happy, because like the beginning of last year, by this point, I'm like, is anything good going to come out? So
yeah, I did think last year was, well, I mean, Mastodon, Hushed and Grim made it into my top 5 based on the fact that I'll probably like it enough for it to be in the top 5.
Yeah. But so you're going to hear me in a good mood today. Because
right, okay. Well, you're always in a good mood. I'm the one who gets grumpy about fucking.
I think sometimes I get a little bit grumpy, and I'm a little bit of a curmudgeon when it comes to certain things.
Yes, but to be fair, mate. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop you there. Yeah, grumpy and curmudgeon. Yeah, well, they are two things that, frankly, being an Englishman, I'm gonna kick the shit out of you every day of the week. You're American. Right, no. You're predisposed. You are human sunshine. I am a human rain cloud.
I don't know. There is a phrase called "ugly American," and that's for those of us who are just complete jerk offs all the time. Well, I guess that's not me. So that doesn't.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Let's do this. The first album.
Yes, let's indeed do this.
Let's get the big one out of the way. The brand new 14th album from Korn, called Requiem.
Yeah,
which I have right here on my vinyl. Which if you can hear, look, that's me tapping on the vinyl for the podcast crowd.
That's very good of you. They all say.
And so you did briefly mention something earlier. I'm like, don't talk about it yet. But you mentioned the album only being 9 tracks. And it's 30, almost 34 minutes long. That's it. It's got to be the shortest Korn album that they've ever done,
by a long way. And I'm rather. I feel this is something we can go back and forth on. Do you know what I mean? Because I think that maybe in previous episodes it's like, right, Old Head's going to review this, and then you do your review. And then I go, right, and here's my review. Whereas I think we can probably go back and forth a little more on this, because
we're both Korn fans, so I think that works out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm going to be turning 52 next month, and in fact, by the time you hear episode 7, I will indeed be 52. But anyway,
I just turned 44.
I will indeed be 52. Never mind. So. Yeah, let's hope I'm not living in a love shack.
God damn it, you beat me to it.
I know. And don't sit there trying to think of other B-52 song titles, all right?
You know what? Don't be such a rock lobster.
I do it!
Or I'm going to send you to Planet Claire, okay?
Oh, right, okay. Well, now you're into realms of, like, I only know, like, 2 or 3 B-52 songs.
But now let's talk about some more good stuff. That's also a B-52 song.
Yeah. Good stuff, Korn. Baby, good. Oh no, that's Love Shack. Anyway,
so the new Korn album, I really like it.
We call it an album, but now I have it on good authority from Jonathan Davies that it was supposed to be an EP, and it started out as an EP. Okay. And to be honest, upon listening to it, I get it, because to me, it sounds like the 9 good songs that you get on a normal Korn album that has 12 or 13 songs on it. And literally, like, they've gone, do you know what? Should we not record 3 or 4 shitty filler songs?
That might be the case, but if that's what it is, they should keep doing that, because the fact that like this is an all killer kind of album to me, and the thing that I think I like the most about this is
I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say. Go on, say it.
I'm talking musically speaking is what I'm going here. All the songs have catchy hooks, like so much so that I almost feel like if this album had come out in the late 90s, early 2000s, it would have been a massive success for them. I mean, it still is, because Korn's a massively successful band anyway. But I get so many vibes of like this is some of the best songwriting I think they've done since the early 2000s. Since like this might be my favorite Korn album since Issues. Like that's the last one I can think of that I was 100% loved everything on it.
Well, I mean, for me, there's some absolute bangers on it. But also, what I became, and it's funny you should mention Issues and stuff like that. That what I found myself picking up on was that like these songs feel like 10 or 15 years old. Like it's, you know, there's like some really weird little guitar noodle going on with some really like, you know, freaky drumming and a really cool rhythm. And I'm thinking, wow, I haven't heard them do this for a long time, you know? And I know to people who don't like Korn, they probably think that that's all Korn ever do. And it's not, but more recently it's, and especially on the Nothing, which I loved as an album. And it was, you know, it's one of my albums. Yeah. And it's a great album. Yeah. But it is very much about the big fat chords and the big fat chorus, and you know, maybe lacking a little in depth and dynamics, which and I think that's the one. That's what I was searching for. It's the return of dynamics. To Korn. It's the return to the, you know, Jonathan's doing something like really interesting there. And again, I'm not saying it for the Nothing, because I thought the Nothing was fucking great, and I think this is fucking great. But the beauty, you know, and again, this is the incredible thing about Korn, is that the last album was fucking great. This album is fucking great, and they're hugely different. Yeah, you know.
I guess the people who aren't into Korn, they would probably hear too many similarities, because it does still sound like a Korn album.
Oh, without a doubt.
But just the fact that like they are now they're a band that is almost 30 years from their beginning. And the fact that like they put out something like this level of quality, it blows my mind, because I've gone through all the stages of being, I was a Korn fan earlier in their career, but then in the 2000s, I really kind of fell off with them. I liked some of what they did, but other stuff I was like, this is just fine. But now it's come full circle where like they're now a band that I'm like, I'm just ready for whatever the fuck they're going to do next. And the thing that Jonathan said about this album was that because of the pandemic, they had so much more time, and he had so much more time to work on vocals and lyrics and figure out exactly how he wanted everything to fit in there. And that is like, to me, the star of the album, because he sounds amazing, but not just that, like it's those choruses that they become earworms, and they're so well done, and there's such well-written songs for being a new metal band. Like they're just, they're just, I mean, it's great. It's great stuff.
Well, you said something there that I'd like to pick up on very much. And that's for those of you listening and watching, that have a problem with Korn, the godfathers of new metal. You know, you blame them for new metal, and as you just heard there, they're coming up on their 30th anniversary. Maybe you should let it go. Yeah. I'm just saying that still being mad at Korn for new metal 30 years down the line is like still hating one of your school teachers for, you know, throwing you out of class that time. You probably need to get over it.
Yeah.
You know? Plus, Korn, basically what I'm saying is we've come full circle, and Korn are no longer the problem. You are.
Yeah. Also, I would think that
they're putting out fucking really consistent, fucking great stuff.
Absolutely. But also that way of thinking, you could say that, like, Korn have always just been Korn. All that other shit that happened after them, they're not, they're, so you can almost say that, sure, those bands are new metal bands. Korn is just Korn, and they've made the music that they made since day one. And yeah, no, I don't really have anything else to add to this except for I hope not just them. I'll say this every time it comes up. I want more bands to make albums that are between 35 and 45 minutes long.
Yeah.
And I don't chalk it full of shit that doesn't need to be in there. Because when you make an album like this, where it is 9 songs, 34 minutes, and I love every song, then you get repeat listens out of me, and you make it even more of a thing where I'm praising your album, because because I have nothing bad to say about it, except for people who don't like Korn. If you love Korn, then this is a fantastic album. So
yeah, and if you haven't listened to Korn for a long time, this is probably one to listen to.
I would agree.
To get you back into them, and then go back and listen to the Nothing as well, and you'll be surprised how great that is.
Yeah.
But also, they are, like it or not, when bands create genres, those bands remain even when the genre dies, and that's how you know they were just a good fucking band. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, the Big Four always been around. Everybody else went on hibernation. Yeah. I mean, Exodus disappeared. One of the only other bands to keep going thrash wise was probably Creator, and maybe Sodom a little bit as well. But those four, the Big Four, they kept going, because when the genre went down, I always say, why did Acid Reign split up? It's like, well, thrash was dying, and when you're part of a scene and the scene goes down, you go down with it, unless you created it, unless you established it. And Korn are one of the bands that established new metal, and along came the Deftones as well, and 2 great fucking bands who
I'm much more critical about the Deftones, though. If we ever get to, whenever they put out a new album, you'll hear me be very critical.
I can be quite critical of the Deftones as well, especially when I went to see them live, because I'd heard so much about them and all the rest of it. And Chino's a great front man, but and that's all I heard. And then I watched them live, and all he seemed to do was crouch like he was having a shit on stage and go down the mic. And I was just like, no, dude. Just fucking no. It's a bit like when you go and see Faith No More, and like Patton just likes making noise with his voice, and you just think, dude, you've got one of the sweetest, most fucking incredible voices ever. Can we hear a bit of that, please? Instead of the pig squealing.
He sings. Come on.
Yeah, occasionally he does. Yeah, but anyway. That was Korn. We're in agreement. We're in agreement on Korn. I got a funny feeling we're gonna be agreeing on a few things here.
Yeah. Do you want me to just jump right into the next one?
I do indeed. Who doesn't? I know the listeners do. I know I do.
Then I'm going to do it.
Okay. I'm going to keep interrupting.
Hold on. I'm about to do it. I just wanted to put a huge dead air in the middle of the podcast.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So moving even further back in time to a band that has been around 40 years and has put out their newest album, Voivod, Synchro Anarchy. It's got some of their album titles. I have to look at it and go, am I saying that right? Synchro Anarchy, which is the 15th, I think, Voivod album, and I think it's the 4th with the newer guitar player who goes by the name of Chewy, who replaced Piggy, obviously.
Who has been Chewy, who was interviewed on Talking Bollocks. So search your podcast app and listen to the interview with Chewy.
And who is a fantastic guitar player also. But so this is going to be the same thing. Me in a good mood. It sounds like a Voivod album, first off. Just like with Korn, if you're already a fan of Voivod, this album, you're going to be very happy with it. But I would say with this version, the post-Piggy Voivod, to me, this is the best thing they've done.
I'd agree with that.
And once again, 40 years they've been a band.
Yeah.
And they are making music better than the new bands doing similar. Well, nobody does Voivod. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, nobody sounds like Voivod. And this album is just so, all of the elements are there, but they're all done so well. And it really does have a lot. As a guitar player, it has a lot of those moments where you make that ooh face when you hear like certain guitar parts, because there's some fantastic shit on here. I would say, like, if you haven't heard it yet, literally just go listen to the title track, Synchro Anarchy. Probably going to be, at the end of the year, one of the songs I listen to the most, because I love the way that it plays out. I love the harmony on the chorus, and I love the weird choppy back and forth between the bass and the guitar in the middle section. It's just everything I love about their odd proggy thrashiness. I mean, it's barely thrash now, but I mean,
yeah,
it's just it's such a really entertaining album, and beyond what I thought they were able to do. Because I've always loved what they did in some respect or another, but now they've just come up with something where I'm like, this is, these are all top 10 albums of the year contenders so far in the beginning of the year.
Okay.
So,
well, firstly, your statement, the best album, the best, post Piggy release, I agree with.
Yeah.
I also think it sonically, it's the one that sounds most like Voivod, and by that I mean the lineup that established the band with Piggy. But I am going to differ slightly, or maybe a lotly. I've listened to the album 5 or 6 times, and the constant thought that's on a loop in my brain when I'm listening to the album is, why don't I like this more?
Oh, okay.
Why? What is missing? What is it that is just that is making me having to go, oh, I must remember to listen to the Voivod album instead of just going straight to it and playing it. And all I can come up with is, well, I've come up with a few things. Firstly, it's me. I'm, and that's it. That's it. Everyone else is going to love it, and it's just me. I do miss, and I think one thing that used to be a real big part of Voivod was insane time changes.
Yeah.
And that they seem to have gone by the wayside. They don't seem to exist anymore. Now, that's absolutely fine. Again, that's not a criticism of Voivod. That's what I want from Voivod. Now, there will be people listening to this going, dude, they haven't been doing that for like over a decade. And you're probably right. Stop shouting. You look weird. Everyone's wondering why you're shouting. But that's what I still want to hear. That's part of what I want to listen to that's what I want from my Voivod. That's the jam I want to listen to.
Yeah.
And because the album sounds so authentically Voivod, I really did feel like the only way I can describe it is like I was watching the band live, and it's like, wow, this is proper Voivod. And then I walked to go to the front of the stage, and I hit some glass, and it turns out they're playing in a shop window.
Okay.
It feels like there's that invisible barrier between me and the band that I can't navigate. There's it's Voivod after 40 years, and maybe this version I'm going to get more out of if I can just shed my kind of Voivod past and kind of look at it as a fresh band, as a new band. And funnily enough, one of the bits that you referred to in Synchro Anarchy, the song, I just found annoying because I thought that to me sounds like a band trying to be Voivod. Hey, let's do the Voivod bit. Okay, well, I'll do this and you do that, and it'll sound really annoying, but it will appeal to musicians and that and stuff like that. And funnily enough, the very, very opening riff of the album, down, down, I was, oh, fucking what? Oh God, it's like, this sounds like a child trying to play Voivod. Like they've listened to one album and gone, oh, I can do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, the riff is much cooler than his vocal performance.
No, I think you'll find, ladies and gentlemen, it sounds exactly like that.
We're going to get a copyright claim on this video because of that.
Yeah. No, I mean, and don't get me wrong. I love Voivod. I love they're still going. If they're playing in London, I'm there like a fucking flash. Okay. Mm-hmm. And despite everything I've said, it's the best album since the Piggy era. And maybe I need more time with it. Maybe I need to realize what it is and start listening to what it is instead of listening to what I want it to be. And again, you know what they say about movies? You know, you get out of a movie what you bring to it. If you go to a movie in a bad mood, you're not going to find that comedy funny, you know? And maybe it's about what you bring to it. And maybe what I'm bringing to it is something that I need to shed and go back to, or maybe, you know, the new band ain't for me. I don't know. But one thing's for sure, I haven't liked anything this new lineup has done.
Okay.
And this, so here, put this on the poster. Here's a glowing endorsement. I haven't liked anything this band has done with this lineup, but this is the best of the stuff I don't like.
They would probably put that on the poster. I mean, so for people who are listening, like this it still does have a lot of odd time signatures on it. But the thing that you're referring to, the really abrupt shifts and things like that, they are pretty, I guess, as straight ahead as Voivod would be these days. But yeah, I can, honestly, like with a band like Voivod, I could see what you're saying. Especially if the majority of what you love about them is stuff from years past and a particular connection of musicians and what they made.
Yes. Yeah.
It makes sense. So, but this, personally speaking, it is an album that I think it's fantastic. And
dude, look, please for you, sad for me, you know. And like I said, I may, you know, this album review may come back. I may dig it up again and go, hey, there's another feature. Okay, like albums that we want to review again. You know, stuff that we've actually reviewed on here or whatever. And it's like, wow, do you know what? This is much better than I give it credit for. Or do you know what? Over time, I've realized that this album does not have the depth I thought. And yeah, it blew me away for 2 weeks. And that's when we recorded the podcast. But now I'm just going to say, you know, it's all right. Whatever.
Yeah. Or if this year continues the way that it is, there's going to be 20 more albums that I really like. And maybe this one gets pushed to the bottom somehow. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's, but I love it. So,
well, I'm going to be really impressed if you've got the vinyl of the next release.
If you're talking about the other one that I said I was going to talk about, yes, sir, I do. I do have the vinyl of this release.
Now this is something new for you, isn't it? Because you haven't always been a fan of Violence.
No, not Violence. That's not what I'm talking about.
I got the wrong one. Shit.
You can talk about Violence because I have heard it, but no, right, I don't. Okay. I don't have the. Let's do about it because mine's totally different than what you were going to talk about. But they're not related at all. But actually, they are. They are related in the family tree of people. Oh, right. But let's talk about Violence first, because I don't have this, because the first song that was released from what's the new EP called from Violence? Not even prepared for this review.
As the world burns, is it? Oh, fuck it, I don't know.
The first track I heard off of it, I was like, this is really dull. And so I didn't pre-order it. The second track I heard, which I don't remember what that one was called, I was more like, okay, this is cool. I can get behind this. But overall, like when I finally listened to the entire EP, my opinion literally fell right in the middle of those two things, to where there's some shit that I go, this is really dull. Some shit I go, this is pretty cool. So my ending response is, all right.
Yeah, no, I get it. Well, look, it's called Let the World Burn.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I always knew that. And kids, the next episode of Talking Bollocks that you're going to be listening to will be a full 1 hour interview with Phil Demmel on the Overkill tour bus at the time, and we had a blast. And he's really open, and there's times on there where we're both just like, you know, nattering away like a couple of thrash kids that we are. And I talked to him a lot about the EP, and I was not blown away by the first track that was released, but the EP as a whole has genuinely it just improved on every listen, and has made me go back to it. And like the second track in, Screaming Always, I said to Phil, I was like, that's when I knew you were back. Because like the verse starts out muted and then it opens up. And we were both talking about it. And I was like, and I was thinking, man, I want to sing on this. And he was like, oh, and it opens up. And we both sat there going like, it's dead funny, because we were just nice. Like, we were just geeking out over it. It is a geeking out over violence interview. And I really like it. I mean, Sean Killian puts in a performance that is Sean Killian. I mean, no one else can do what he does. And again, we talk about that in the interview. And look, I can't really say a great deal about the EP other than get hold of it. If you like violence, you'll pretty much like the EP. I'm pretty sure of that. If you don't like violence, you won't like the EP. I'm pretty sure of that. Because Sean's still Sean, because there are some like just nuts bits of vocals where you're like, no one else is going to do that. No one else is going to have that idea.
It's not as nuts as I would like it to be, because like, you know, there are those camps of people that don't really like his vocals on the first album that much. But those are the vocals I like. Like once he sort of reined it in a little bit, I was like, this isn't quite as exciting. But also he's much older now, so I can't really say much about that. So
well, funnily enough, I was actually arguing with Phil, because I was arguing that Oppressing the Masses does not get the credit it's due. It does not get the love that it deserves.
I mean, it's a good album, so yeah.
Yeah, but he was like, I don't know. And I was having to make a case for him being wrong about the album that he plays on and wrote a bunch of songs on. But because I was like, look, to me, this sounds like a follow-up to Oppressing the Masses as opposed to Nothing to Gain. And he was like, well, for me, it's a follow-up to Eternal Nightmare before Nothing to Gain. And I wouldn't go that far. I think that's what happens when you're too close to stuff. Yeah. But I do think there are moments in here that are more chaotic than anything on Oppressing the Masses.
Yeah.
And I stand by it. I genuinely think it sounds like an EP that came out after Oppressing the Masses. And I enjoy it. And I'd urge you, my dear friend, to go back and listen to it. And give it a few listens. But hey, you know, ultimately, if it's not lighting your fire, and you are a violence fan, so if it's not lighting your fire, then you know, I take back what I just said, that, you know, if you're a violence fan, you're pretty much going to like it, because
I might need to grow on me as well.
Well, I'd tell you what, I'll listen to Voivod more, you listen to Violence more, and let's both mention it on the next episode of Old Bollocks.
That sounds like a good idea, because I think sometimes I feel like I'm not in the proper headspace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I do also do a thing. I'm not going to go any farther than making this statement. I do have a problem where things that band members say in public sometimes color my opinion of the music they make afterwards. And so
Yeah.
and so I sometimes I have to be able to remove myself from that, but then there's the other part of me that goes, fuck them, I don't need to remove myself from their nonsense. But
Yes.
but so I need to go and be sort of clear-headed. But I do have to say that first track they released is the lamest on the EP. But it is, I mean, it's still really good quality shit. That's the thing. I just have to like really start picking it apart for like the cool things that I like. But yeah,
absolutely.
But so I like this because this actually proves to everybody out there that we do not plan these episodes very well, because you thought I was going to talk about violence.
I did,
but I'm going to talk about an album. So back in the day, there was a guy that was in Violence whose name was Rob Flynn. Rob Flynn later formed a band called Machine Head, and he played in Machine Head with a guy named Logan Mader. Logan Mader started a band called Once Human, and the newest Once Human album is called Scar Weaver, and that's me tapping on it for everyone to hear. I wonder if that even comes through in the podcast.
That's already become a tradition. Nice work. Tapping
on the vinyl, or on the sleeve anyway. So for those of you who don't know Once Human, I gave you a little bit of background about, who kind of started it.
Female vocals.
If you break it down, the actual description of what she does vocally is very similar to what a lot of female metal vocalists do, which is the sing sometimes, kind of a growly thing sometimes. But so I got into Once Human on their last album, and anyone that knows, especially people that watch my channel, know that I don't like a lot of modern sounding metal. It takes a lot for something to really sort of pull me in. And the thing that pulled me in on their last album was not her name's Lauren Hart, her vocals. It was not her vocals. It was the really fucking mental guitar riffs.
Yeah.
There were things I'm like, who the fuck, how could you, if you came to them and said, can you put this down in sheet music? They'd be like, no, because there's no way to do it. It's weird shit that seems to pull from all kinds of areas, from proggy and techie and ambient weirdness. Who knows where the fuck it comes from? But the actual like music behind everything, I was like, some of this shit is insanely cool. And I liked her vocals as well. The good thing about this new album, Scar Weaver, is that everything about the band has gotten a lot better, to the point where songwriting, fucking really well done, has some really catchy shit on it. But the kudos I have to give is to Lauren Hart, the vocalist. And honestly, I would say that I am a pretty big critic of female fronted metal, not because of the women, but because I feel that 90% of the time, mediocre women in metal are given a pass because men are thinking with their dicks. And so when I hear something like this, where like she has now become this vocalist where everything sounds so fucking good, to where she's not doing unnatural style. Like you hear some people try to do gutturals that are way beyond their capacity, and it just sounds like you're going ooh ooh ooh. And I'm like, I don't need that. So
can I just say at this point that if you're just listening to the podcast, it is actually worth going to the video on Old Head's channel just to see the face he pulls when he does that. Okay,
because that's how you have to do it.
Believe you me, it's a fucking treat.
Because that's the way like the modern death metal vocalist does it. You can't understand what they're saying because they have to make their mouth really small. And
he's making his mouth like an asshole, ladies and gentlemen.
If you're into that kind of thing, but
yes, but as you seem to be, yes.
But anyway, so like her vocals are now like, she found a way to do this shouty, it's guttural, but a natural guttural for her voice. And when she goes into the singy parts, the transition is real smooth. because a lot of metal bands, not just female fronted in general, that do that thing where, oh, we're doing a death growl now, and now we're doing a sing. I've never liked that because it's so jarring and annoying to be like, we were talking about death and then we're gonna sing. And I'm just
I totally agree. I mean, my big criticism of anyone who's doing the style that, as far as I'm aware, was invented, inverted commas, by Burton C. Bell.
I'd give him credit, yeah.
Who is still one of the best at doing it.
Yeah.
And the reason why he's one of the best at doing it is because when he's doing the gruff vocals and when he's doing the more singing vocals, it still sounds like the same guy.
Yes.
And what does my head in is where people seem to think it's a competition to go as growly as possible. And then go as beautiful as possible. And that is like, to me, that loses credibility. And it also becomes a fucking black and white issue with the song. It's like, oh, this is the black part. This is the white part. This is the black part. It's like, no.
So at the end of the day, it's barely a song. It's just parts that are attached together.
Yeah, it stops it flowing for me.
Yeah. So exactly what you said about Burton C. Bell is what she has now reached as an extreme metal vocalist to me.
Cool. Do you know what? I'd forgotten about this. I remember you mentioning it, and I've just had so much to listen to. It's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I've got to make an effort with this. And I know somebody who I think, is a little bit of a fan of theirs. So I'm sure he'll be able to give me the heads up on what he thinks as well. But
to me, it's well worth the time. And because it's not just because obviously the shit that I liked from that last album is here too, where there are some riffs where I had to go back and hear it again and go, what exactly is being played here? Because I don't know what this is. And it's so much so that, like, doesn't matter if you take the tracks apart and left it for me to just listen to the guitar isolated, I'd still be like, fuck this. I don't even know where to begin. And so, but it's such a great combination of like all these modern qualities, the techie, the proggy, the catchy, like everything is in there done so well that I don't see any reason why this band isn't gonna in the metal world blow up. I mean, they've already gotten some good attention, but I feel like they're only gonna get bigger.
Does anyone blow up anymore? Does that happen anymore? Is that a thing?
I mean, if you think about, I don't know, Ghost. I mean, they're barely metal, but you know what I mean? That's what I mean when I say blow up. Like, a lot of people talk about Ghost, but they're not like million selling band, Oh, I'm with you. For the podcast world, Howard was pretending to fall asleep.
No, well, you said, for example, think about Ghost. So I did, and I instantly started falling asleep.
So when I say blow up, I mean, within the realms of the metal world, I think that they're going to get there because this album is really strong.
Well, that sounds like a solid recommendation from your good stuff, and I will be taking up that recommendation. And also, whilst you were talking about female singers, something popped back into my head, and that was I had an email from a PR company for the podcast this week, and it's the same company that it was about the Life Project, the LIFE project, which is dude from Stone Sour, not Corey, guitarist, and amazing female singer, and their EP from last year is something that I just kept playing. It was just one of those things, and she has an incredible set of pipes.
We talked about it on an episode of Old Bollocks.
We did indeed, and her voice is outstanding, and I'm just a huge fan. Well, there's a follow-up EP coming out, and I'm like really excited until I saw what a massive backward step it was, it's 4 covers.
Oh,
but then I thought, well, depends what the covers are, and then 50 backward steps.
Oh shit!
It's covers of a Megadeth song, an Anthrax song, a Metallica song, and a Slayer song.
With the same singer?
Yep. They've covered South of Heaven. Now, bear in mind, I haven't heard all these yet.
Okay.
But when you were talking, I was thinking, dude, I can't wait for you to hear their version of Caught in a Mosh.
Now, if they reimagine those songs, then I'm
Could
interested.
be very cool.
Yeah.
Could be very cool. But the PR company sent me this, and I was like, oh, after the, and it's just preview. It's like a 30-second preview of each. So don't think I'm getting like the EP for free here. Oh no, I get this. I get the same shitty links everybody else does. I mean, I'm going to get the EP for free eventually, but so I just got to hear a 30-second clip of Caught in a Mosh, and there's no vocals on it. It's just an instrument. It's the instrumental section, and it sounds pretty much like Caught in a Mosh. Now, Sounds of Heaven, I'll be really interested to hear because that song is ripe for an acoustic version, for a slowed down, real sort of moody, fucking nasty, grungy version. That I could see being amazing. But to be honest, I can't even tell you what the Megadeth song is, and I can't even tell you what the Metallica song is, because I was so disappointed with the concept. Because it's like, it was one of my favorite things of last year was this 5-track EP. And I was like, oh my God, another one already. I can't wait. Oh, cover version of the Bigfoot. Oh dear. Oh, right. Okay. Never mind. Oh, well, never mind.
I think at this point, I wish that we had the power to make a rule that now, like, cover songs should be relegated to like a one-off. Like if you want to release a cover song as a single digitally that just comes out, then great. But like an entire EP or album worth of covers, like when's the last time you heard one of those where you actually liked it? Like,
or you want to put a cover version on an album, which of course is what you meant to say, which is fine.
That's also a reimagining of the song. That's not because that song does not sound like Blood Makes Noise from her album.
We're talking about Blood Makes Noise, the Acid Rain version, and also I should mention went see Suzanne Vega since last we spoke, and I forgot to put this on the main podcast as well. So yeah, there you go. I'll probably mention it on the next one. But anyway, so I went to see Suzanne Vega. And we were messaging, and I was saying, oh look, it'd be great to come down, say hi and stuff. And she messaged me back, and she went, well, because of COVID, we're kind of in a bubble. And I was like, oh, you fucking idiot. You idiot, Howard. Yeah. There's music business, Howard. There's Howard of Acid Rain. I know all of these things. And then it comes to go to Suzanne Vega. And all right, can I come in and say hello?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, duh. So of course, we weren't able to meet up, and Blood Makes Noise was not in the set either. And she did message back and like apologize a couple of days later, because she said, like, just before you hear, yes, I did play it in Paris. And it's like, but the Parisians, like, they will not have us not play that song. And she goes, but I'll play it next time. And I was like, okay, cool, no problem. She's back next summer. So anyway, I'll have a whole new Suzanne Vega story then, hopefully.
Cool.
But do you know what? To me, it feels like the time. It feels right to introduce a new feature.
Yeah, okay. Good idea.
And I'm not going to say what it's called, because you're going to hear in the next bungling 20 minutes. Myself,
just when you thought we were nearing the end.
yeah. Myself and Old Head met up to basically discuss this feature and discuss what we were going to do, how we were going to do it. There's reviews on the way. Don't worry, folks. Don't worry. But here to explain what this feature is all about is myself and Old Head from a few weeks ago.
From the past.
It's like Inception. Can we do a like dreamy wave bit here? So yeah, well we've got to explain this new feature, haven't we? Yep. So hello, future listeners. This is where we're going to decide what album we're going to review. Ideas sent in by patrons of Talking Bollocks podcast, by followers on social media, by your followers as well.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is, you lucky bastards who joined in, we're going to read your names out, and we're going to read out your suggestions, apart from one person, because they've given us so many suggestions that I think it's fair that we just call this the Scott Bamford feature in future.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the Scott Bamford 10 minutes, which is where we review an album that we've never heard of before.
Well, we'll let him get away with it this time, but I feel like we need to stress to everybody for future episodes, pick your one strongest album and suggest it to us.
Yeah.
Also,
sorry.
I was going to say it's very important because I've got some suggestions, but all I have is a band name and an album name. There's no other context involved. So it's a little bit easier if maybe you put a little blurb of what's the genre, the subgenre, maybe a comparative band, or something like that. But yeah,
especially for me, because I love the stories, and I kind of know which album I want to choose based on how it was pitched. Where someone said like it's like this and it's like that, and this is what happened to the band. You probably know the one I'm talking about as well.
I think so.
Because it's like a fascinating. And it was like I've got to listen to that album. So maybe it's not just suggesting a band and an album. It's suggesting that telling us why we should choose that as opposed to like 5, 6, or on this occasion 27 others.
Yeah.
So hey,
do we want to just get Bamfords out of the way?
So this is the Scott Bamford feature. Scott suggested it, and we've kind of taken the parts we liked and left the parts we didn't. So anyway, good work, Scott. This is the one everyone's got to thank Scott for this. Well done, Scott. That's the end of the thanks.
Just don't say his name ever again. And after that, it's the last time.
Yeah. So basically, what we've got, these are, and there is, to be fair, he does a great job of explaining each one.
Yeah.
And like what it kind of sounds like and who might like it. But if I read all of that and everything else, we're just going to double the length of the podcast here. So basically, Scott's suggestions are Voices Breaking the Trauma Bond.
Mm-hmm.
After that, it is Moral Collapse with Moral Collapse. After that, it is Werewolves, What a Time to Be Alive. After that, it's Hippotractor, Meridian. For fans of the Belgian Deftones, anyone?
Hey.
And then the other suggestions, because that was just one message.
Yeah.
Then we've also got Nakara, the Possession. Was it? Yeah, the Possession. Sorry, I was going to go on and do more of that. So there you go, Nakara, the Possession. Then there's also Luna's Call. And the album is called Void. And then I think we've also got a UK band called Rannoch. So Rannoch and their album Reflections Upon Darkness. And we've also got, and then finally, number 4, just when you thought there is a band that you'd heard of, The Crown, The End of All Things, but it's not The Crown, as in death metal Swedish The Crown.
Oh, okay.
It's 9 Inch Nails-y Depeche Mode stuff, apparently.
Yeah, okay. And honestly, I haven't heard of any of those bands. So
No, absolutely. And I'm exactly the same. I'm like, fair play, Scott, because I thought I was going to get a few things that were suggested. Like, for instance, Ian Hunter suggested via Patreon, Ian suggested Bleed From Within, Fracture. But unfortunately, I'm aware of Bleed From Within. Okay. So it kind of doesn't count. It's we want something coming from nowhere. And yeah, not a massive Bleed From Within fan either. But thank you, Ian, and thank you, Scott, for getting involved. And but over to you and the folks on YouTube who came in hard and heavy.
Sure, yeah, and the interesting thing is that, like, because of everybody's usernames and my shitty handwriting, I'll probably get everybody's names wrong here.
Awesome.
But this username, your ma, suggested Insecurity is the band and Intruder of Reality is the album, but I don't remember there being a description of it. So that's all we got going for that. Stevan Deljev had two suggestions. One, the band is 4 a.m. The album is Survivalist. And the other one, the band is Knives Out. The album is Black Mass Hysteria. I feel like I've heard of Knives Out, but I don't think I've ever heard them.
Are you sure you're not confusing it with the movie of the same name?
Either that or the Radiohead song, one or the other. I don't know.
Right. There's a Radiohead song called Knives Out. You learn something new every day.
There is. I used to be a massive Radiohead fan, in case that gives you a little insight into my past. Not so much anymore, but
look at the face of the least surprised person ever.
Then I'm gonna fuck up both these names.
Good.
Alexander Radjovijevic. Something like that. His two suggestions were Bastet, their self-titled album. Now he gave a little description. He said this is metal with female vocals. So that's, it gives you a little bit to go on there. The other album is the band Creatures, their self-titled album. He calls it traditional / glam metal. Okay.
Well, that's to be fair here. Some of your descriptions may rule that band out immediately, and that's a prime example. Classic glam. A, there's no such thing, and B, get that shit out of my ears.
And then Diarmuid McNally suggested Best Kissers in the World. The album is Yellow Brick Roadkill, and he was explaining that this is an album that was only recently brought out, but it was a band from the 90s.
The album was supposed to be released in 1996, but actually didn't see the light of day until 2012. The band were dropped. Keep reading, but that for me, and apologies to anybody that doesn't like how my brain works, but that to me is like, I've got to fucking hear this album. I've got to hear an album that a label released 8 years after they dropped the fucking band.
Yeah. Well, also, did you read the 2-word genre descriptions he put in there, and you're still cool with that? He used the words grunge and power pop.
Well, the thing is that he also used the word banger. Which, as we all know, and the thing is, it's kind of like, do you know what? Like, grunge has good. I'm a Soundgarden fan,
I'm not a fan of a lot of those bands. So
yeah. So I'm not. When thrash died, I didn't sit around and wait for it to come back to life.
Yeah,
I expanded my horizons. I went and played in a band that had a fucking sax player, for fuck's sake. I liked the new wave of industrial stuff. I'm a huge Nine Inch Nails fan, and I liked a lot of the early new metal stuff like Korn and Slipknot. Not new metal, but they came along around the same time, maybe a little bit after. Limp Bizkit, I liked.
If there's any rapping in your music, you're new metal. So Slipknot is absolutely new metal.
Ooh. Well.
So, but obviously, I'm also not a fan. So there you go.
Yeah, no, and I get that, and I get that, but you've got a point there. You've got a point there that does make sense. There will be.
There's other elements too of new metal in Slipknot where there is a little bit of that whiny thing going on, like in some of their stuff, and I don't know. It's just a personal preference, but I feel like they take a lot of the elements of new metal that I don't actually like.
but it amazes me that you like new metal and you like metal and you don't like Slipknot, who are the most metal of the new metal bands. Korn, etc. They don't build round riffs; they build round rhythms. And they and they build around grooves, whereas Slipknot build around riffs. That's why
I'll always about this before. My biggest issue is Corey Taylor. It's not the music that they make. I think he's a very he's an uninteresting vocalist, and his lyrics are usually cringeworthy. And so that's why I'm not really into them. He kind of ruins it for me. But there's one more suggestion that, I'll just say their name. Beer Maniac 31 suggested Death Decline with the album The Silent Path. And that was the last one that I received.
Can I just pick up on the username there? What was the username again?
Beer Maniac 31.
He went to YouTube, or she went to YouTube and went, Beer Maniac, boom. Oh, that's been taken. Beer Maniac 1, boom. That's been taken. Beer Maniac 2, boom. It's been taken. Rinse, repeat until Beer Maniac 29, boom, taken.
Or he was born in 1931. I don't know.
Or 2031, and he's been sent back in time to improve our musical tastes.
I like that one even better. So so honestly, the one that you seem interested in, I am too. The only other one that kind of stood out to me was from Scott Bamford, which was the Moral Collapse Band, just because he compared it to Dillinger Escape Plan, but then said there was saxophone in it. And I'm like, that could be really great or fucking awful. I don't really know.
Well, I got the same kind of vibe for Nakara, The Procession, a French solo project from Pitbulls and the Nursery Guitarist, for fans of Destrage, Are You Kidding Me era.
I love it. I love it when there's like four fans of bands that you also have never heard of.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. For fans of bands who've got two fans, check this shit out.
Yeah.
But seriously, and it is worth mentioning that Scott really did his due diligence and gave us a shed load of descriptions to go along with the bands as well.
Absolutely.
And there is some great stuff in there. I mean, like you said, Hippocrates for fans of Belgian Deftones. But again, that's quite proggy, and there was some bits and pieces in there. But to be honest, once I read that story about this album should have come out and it didn't, and they got dropped, and that's I need to hear that album.
I'm down with that too, because everything about it is actually kind of interesting, because the band is called Best Kissers in the World, rather unusual name for anything that might be heavy. And then I also I kind of like the album name, Yellow Brick Roadkill. I like it when you take something and then you make it into something violent.
Well, funnily enough, I didn't. Through Googling around the story of this band, I found a band called Yellow Brick Roadkill who have one demo out from the 90s, and someone put it on YouTube, and it's mainly the members commenting on, "Oh, thanks for putting this up, dude."
Yeah.
And it's fucking great.
Oh, really?
I'll send you a link. So this is the gift that keeps on giving. It's all we haven't even chosen this, but I've found the band. I've found this classic hardcore demo. I'm chuffed to bits with it. So it's kind of like an additional.
I didn't do any kind of searching whatsoever. I haven't even seen the artwork for any of these, but honestly, the fact that that can, seemed interesting to you and to me, I feel like we should go with that. Because honestly, we don't normally talk about anything that would include the word grunge anyway. So it'd be interesting to delve into that side of things. But
definitely. And ultimately, we might found it. Now, don't get me wrong, I haven't heard the band. I haven't seen the app. I just for some reason, the phrase that roadkill, that Yellow Brick Roadkill, I thought that rings a bell. So I kind of Googled that and ended up finding the band as opposed to this. But straight away, I was the exact same as you. I was like, well, that's kind of an odd band name.
Yeah.
That's a really odd and very cool album title.
Yeah.
And then the story behind it, it's like, look, this is just the trifecta. It's smashing it on all levels, really.
Yeah, and it hits that sweet spot for me because I really love discovering bands from the 80s and the 90s that put out an album and were dropped or just were completely unsuccessful and like nobody knows what it is. Like that shit's fascinating to me. So that on top of everything else, that obviously this is going to be our pick. So
it is, but
yeah.
Given that this feature is called Scott Bamford's 10 minutes, whatever we're going to call it, right? I like the idea. I like the idea of the two of us doing this in like 10 years time. You know, when I'm like fucking 80 by then, I'm going, yeah, you remember Scott Bamford? Do you remember him?
It's a shame. It's a shame what happened to him.
Yeah. It's like, you know, people saying like, why is this feature called Scott Bamford's 10 minutes or whatever it is? It's like, well, it's a long story.
It would be even better if we never pick an album that Scott Bamford suggests. But we give him the name of the segment.
Oh, you're a cruel man, because what my suggestion was going to be was that we pick at least one of because I kind of feel like that's being over harsh, because ultimately it was Scott's idea and he's delivered more suggestions than anybody else. Okay. And I'm all for thinking it's hilarious to not pick anything that he suggested, but it's maybe a bit too ungrateful. So
also considering he's a Patreon, I got to keep them checks rolling in.
Oh yeah, too right. Yeah, I've got to be able to pay my rent this month. So
so do you have one of his that you're wanting to pick also?
Well, this is brilliant. I love this one. Voices Breaking the Trauma Bond, UK band featuring 2 current members of Akakoki. For fans of 4 question marks, no idea.
Oh, okay. And I believe he referred to that one as epic. So that's a promising word.
Yes. Yeah. So that's definitely in there. And I kind of like that Hippocractor Meridian.
Because he did say Deftones and King Buffalo in his description.
Driving rhythmic beats, great songs, and a real grower of an album. The only thing that worries me there is, are we going to have time for it to grow? Do you know what? Actually, I think it's down to those two. I think it's either Voices Breaking the Trauma Bond, or should we go for the really bizarre Hippo Tractor?
I was going to say, since we're already leaning on the interesting band names for best kissers in the world, maybe also we go with Hippo Tractor
for the same reasons.
Because honestly, Voices is a if I met somebody in a band and oh cool, what's your band called? And they said Voices, I'd be like, oh really? Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be like, so what happened? You could never be bothered to actually get around to think of a good name, and you just like, that was the first you came up with, and then after a while you just went, well, that's the name of the band, I guess. Nobody can be bothered to think of a good one.
It's also the kind of band name that I'm pretty sure if we Google it, there's also 50 bands called Voices. Probably Absolutely. Half of them are a cappella groups.
Oh no! Don't get me started, because we're going to stray into Van Canto territory, and I'm going to start feeling depressed.
Okay.
Cool.
So best kissers in the world, Yellow Brick Roadkill, suggested by Diarmude McNally. He's also on my Facebook group as well. And every time I see his name, I'm like, I hope I never have to pronounce that name. And then
he's going to write in every week now. You've given the game away there, haven't you?
and then from good old Scotty Bamford, Hippo Tractor with Meridian.
Yes. Hippo Tractor. I mean, again, that's an interesting album. That's an interesting
Tractor
name.
Spelled with a K also.
Also, I think I do think that Belgium is kind of over it. It's underrated. It's forgotten about. There's bands in Belgium that are huge that people aren't really aware of. Do you know the band Channel Zero? The band Channel Zero.
Yeah, from the 90s. That band.
They're still going, mate.
Oh, they are still today. I only know their albums from the 90s, but yeah.
They are in Belgium. They are as big as Metallica.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, put it this way. When I interviewed the singer, who I hadn't spoken to in years, and it's a bizarre, I'd say, look, if you haven't listened to the Channel Zero interview that's on Talking Bollocks, please go and listen to that, because it's very, very different to anything you're ever likely to hear on any music podcast. It's bizarre. But after the interview, he added me as a friend on Facebook. But he was basically, he's up to, like, he's not allowed any more friends on Facebook. And he added me as a friend. And I know I've got 3 friends who live in different parts of Belgium. And within an hour, all 3 had contacted me to say, oh my fucking God, you're friends with Frankie. That's amazing. It's like,
wow.
Okay, wow. Yeah. And the weird thing is, as well, is I had Channel Zero's first ever demo tape was given to me, and I loved it. Yeah. But I mean, you are nodding away there, so you've listened to the podcast. You know the one I mean.
Yeah, that was a while ago. I think when I first started listening to your podcast, I think that was one that I heard.
Yeah, it's quite early. It's quite early. Yeah. But so without wanting to go on too much of a tangent, yeah, Belgium is worth it's worth checking out.
I agree. They also had some really good virtually unknown thrash bands back in the late 80s and early 90s. So, you know, they've always been that place where they have some hidden gems that I guess they're not hidden especially in America. They definitely are. So,
and once upon a time, it was also the country with before the advent of microbreweries and things like that. It was the country with the most breweries in it per capita.
That's got to be the US now. It's like everywhere you go.
Yeah. I think so. And in Belgium, it was because every monastery had a brewery. Yeah. So like, you know, you literally, depending on the part of the country you're in, you get local beers that are brewed by the local monastery. It's bizarre. Hey, how's this for a feature? How's this for a tangent?
Yeah.
So basically, in conclusion, we are now going to go and listen to Hippo Tractor, whatever album that's good. What's it called? Meridian, and
Best Kissers in the World.
Best Kisses in the World, yeah.
Yellow Brick Roadkill.
Cool. So we're now going to go and listen to those albums, and then in just a few seconds, due to the miracle of time, you're going to be able to listen to us say what we think to those albums. How bloody fascinating is this Scott Bamford feature, eh? It's great.
It's a feature where we literally get to time travel, so I'm really excited about this.
Absolutely. Well, dude, let's listen to these albums, and I'll see you in the future for your thoughts on them both.
All right, yes, sir.
Cool. And we're back. Thank you very much, Howard and Old Ed.
we looked so much younger back then.
Didn't we just? And we sounded that much younger for those of you listening to the audio podcast. So now you've heard us describe what the feature is all about. You now know it's still called the Scott Bamford feature because frankly he's put more work into it than either of us. So we did choose a band of Scots.
They hear the whole process in that 20-minute clip. The whole process of us choosing the albums is all there.
Absolutely.
That's like a peek behind the curtain that we offer to you.
It is a peek behind the curtain / that you didn't ask for and didn't want. And you've also peeked behind the curtain and seen there is actually no magic. You have just seen it's just somebody with a hand up a puppet. So we came out with Hippo Tractor, the Belgian whatever they are band. And who's the other band?
Best Kissers in the World.
That's it.
So we literally got kind of the best of both worlds with an album from last year that we didn't know about, and an album from 1996 that didn't get released until 2012. So, but only one of those is from Mr. Scott Bamford.
Yes.
So maybe we should start with Hippo Tractor.
We should, but well, yes. Let's start with Hippotractor. So
It's called Meridian. Is the name of the album.
Meridian. It's you can get it from their Bandcamp page. You can pay any amount that you wish. Now, I hands up. This is the kind of stuff that I can get a bit obsessive about, and I can really get into. I like my gent, although it's not gent. I like my Haken. It's nothing like Haken. I like aspects of Periphery. I like the periphery of Periphery.
I shouldn't have laughed at that. That was
no, really not. You're only going to encourage me. But when it came to Hippotractor, what I found, my conclusion was: A, I can see why this is unsigned. B, they're very, and by that I mean I don't. That's not knocking their abilities or anything, but with A&R man's ears on, guys, you're giving me nothing. You're giving me nothing I ain't hearing anywhere else. You're giving me nothing new. You're not gent, okay? But you're really fucking heavy, and then you're really fucking melodic. You're very rarely in between, and I'm like, are fans of Haken gonna like this? Probably not. Are fans of Periphery gonna like this? Probably not. Are fans of and I just found myself kind of going, yeah, do you know what? Well done. Congratulations, singer. Great. Wonderful. He can do his growls. He can do the clean thing. And he can do the kind of thing in between as well. There's little bits of that as well. The drummer, wonderful. But am I going to listen to this like over and over? No. Are any of these songs sticking with me? No. Are there any parts that made my jaw drop? No. Basically, is there a question I can answer that is yes about this album? No.
Oh. I can't. You said everything. It's very.
I'm sorry.
It literally sounds like a dozen other bands that have already done this style of music, so much so that like I kept like having to go back and look on the thing to remember what the band was called, because I'm all like, who is that? Because there's nothing unique about it. Like you said, they're very capable of doing the music that they're doing.
Yeah,
but there's certain types of music that now, like I've said this before, like every Friday I go to Apple Music and I just go through all these new sort of metal and rock albums and just listen to little bits of things here and there that seem interesting. And there's always like three different things that have at least 2 or 3 albums represented every week. One, black metal. There's 2 or 3 new black metal albums that sound very similar every week. The second one is that sort of hardcore-ish metal where all the singers are rah, rah, rah. Like, there's 3 or 4 of those every week. There's always 1 or 2 bands that sound like Hippotractor, where it's just like, okay, this is like proggy, but not so much. It's melodic. There's a little, but it's all like so kind of bland, and to where it immediately becomes background music, where it's like, this is fine because it's not pissing me off and it's not getting in my way. But at the same time, there's nothing grabbing me and making me feel engaged or making me go, oh, I want to know more about this band or hear more of what they've done. It literally was just like, like it was like water off a duck's back, as they say, where it's just, it's gone. And then the album's over.
Yeah. But put this on the poster. Well executed mediocrity.
Yeah. It's Scott Banford, I'm very sorry.
And again, sorry, Scott, but it didn't move me at any point. And the thing is, the bands I mentioned, the Peripheries of this world, the Hakens of this world, it is, you listen to stuff like the gaping chasm in class and songwriting ability is like planetary. It really, really is. Because the thing is about hip attraction, and without wanting to make the same point again, it's not gent, but it sounds like it wants to be. It's not technical enough for people who love technical. It's and it's got, you know, I don't know. It's like it's a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing.
It reminds me of,
or rather, it's a sheep in sheep's clothing.
Or that, but it reminds me of those bands. You know, you have those friends that don't listen to metal, but they have those one or two heavy bands they listen to, and they always kind of sound like something like Hippotractor, where it's just a little bit over the edge to where I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's very safe.
Well, look, I want to throw some light on this instead of both of us, you know, throwing shade all the time. I want to throw some light on this, and I want to say they are so good at what they're doing, which we've already pointed the pitfalls out. I wouldn't rule them out of putting out an album that I go, whoa.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's like so don't get me wrong. Don't be, you know, not that anybody listens to this and it takes either of our opinions for shit, you know, but you go have a listen and you may well go like, whoa, no, this is right up my alley. This is great. Cool. Let us know, you know, get in touch. We're easy to find. But you know, for me, they are, you know, they're a good distance away. Yeah. And I hate sound. I'm going to bang on about it. It's all about, and it sounds like really stupid and obvious, but it's all about the songwriting. It's all about the songwriting. It's not about how heavy. It's not about light and shade. It's not about big chorus. It's about songwriting. The songs as a whole, are they captivating? Do they have a theme? Am I interested? Is it holding my attention? It's got to do all of these things. And it's like, it's alchemy, you know, it really is. And unfortunately for me, this album was a miss, and I will not miss listening to it.
I think that put the nail in it right there. That's we've shut the book on Hippotractor for now.
We have closed the book, but where we start next, I want to just jump in because we're going to start. Oh God, what's the album called again?
The album is called Yellow Brick Roadkill. The band is Best Kissers in the World.
But what I want to mention is the band Yellow Brick Roadkill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because I found the band Yellow Brick Roadkill before I found the album, and you had to send me the album because I couldn't find it in any of the places that I was looking. Yeah. But I discovered the band Yellow Brick Roadkill, and I urge you to go to YouTube and find the band Yellow Brick Roadkill. Right? It is like it's really early fucking proto hardcore. It's but like, you know, really cool, catchy, melodic.
It reminds me of, I think I told you this, like I was in a lot of bands in the late 90s where we were fans of punk, hardcore, math rock. Like we were into, like, there's no math in that, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's you could call it hardcore music, but it's got such a I don't know, not pop sensibility to it. It's just got, it's catchy stuff, but it's not simplified punk. It's like kind of in that area of stuff where I guess musicians were trying to be a little more interesting, but they were still a punk hardcore band.
Well, yeah, but with elements of crossover as well, and you know, like shouting. Yeah. And the thing is, it's just a demo, and it's got very few views, and it would appear that most of the comments are from people who were either in the band or at the studio when it was rehearsed, when it was recorded, or used to go to rehearsals. So it's like, I think it'd be hilarious if everybody's listening to this just piles in, right, and goes, "Oh, dude, this is fucking," and they'll all of a sudden they'll be like, "Where the fuck?
Yeah, I'll put
this coming from."
I'll put a link in the video. You put one in the podcast, but it's like, so it seems like that's all they did was this demo.
Yeah, and it's just, and it's members of the band and friends commenting on YouTube, and I think it'd be great if we all just pile in there and go,
"It's great,
work, guys! You know, this is really cool."
Yeah. I love stumbling across demos from bands that never made it, because especially, I mean, sometimes even the bad ones are really entertaining, but then sometimes you get those ones that go, man, if they'd stuck with it, this could have been really fucking cool. And then,
yes.
and it's so funny that we're now doing a review that's not the album.
Yeah. And look, I'm cards on the table. The best thing about the best kisses in the world is the album title and the fact that I found a band that is the same as the album title, because I'm way more excited about that band's demo than I am best kisses in the world. And if I was at that label, that album would never have been fucking
This is great, because so here's the thing. We agree once again on this album as well. Nobody's ever going to suggest any other albums for us to listen to.
yeah. Sorry, guys, but I can heartily see why a label buried this for 12 years. And frankly, it was 12 years was not enough.
So just to give some background, so we do a proper review here. Best Kissers in the World was a band from Seattle, who were in the heyday. Like, they got signed to Sub Pop, I think, in the early 90s and shit like that. And they put out an album, got signed to like a major label, and then they recorded this album, which is called Yellow Brick Roadkill. The label then kicked them off, and I guess they broke up at that point, but then another label decided they were going to put out the finished album in 2012. And
I might be wrong about it being recorded in 1996, by the way.
No, it was 96. It was 96.
Oh, it was. Okay, cool.
Yeah, this was their second album on MCA, that major label, and it was supposed to be their second, and it didn't come out. By the way, this was suggested by Diarmuid McNally, which I had a hard time saying in the past.
But luckily, really brushed up on your pronunciation.
No, it's never going to get any better. There's too many.
Sorry about that, McNally.
I'm going to call you D McNally. That sounds
D McNally.
Like D.
He sounds like a New York firefighter. D McNally. Yeah, I've been here 25 years.
Anyway, so it was his suggestion, and once again, just like with Hippotractor, like, for what they were doing, they are fine. They remind me of, I don't know if, do you know the band Archers of Loaf? You ever heard them before? No, I'm guessing no.
No.
Archers of Loaf.
I'm in the camp of, guys, change your name.
They were a great 90s like alternative rock band. Okay. This has similar qualities to that, but the songs are nowhere near as good. But in 1996, if I was working for MCA and they made this album, I'd be like, this sound is over. Like this, and it's over for a reason, because there's 1,000 bands doing similar versions of this particular sound, and you guys are just another band now. And that's not just them. Like, I could think of like a dozen bands from around the same time who all had the same scenario, where they were working on their album on a major label, and then the label fucked off, because like that's the way everything was going in 1996. Like, things were very quickly moving away from your generic alternative rock, and the things that were popular were now becoming heavier, not necessarily metal, obviously, but or like things that weren't even related. Like it was ska punk, and shit like that was like, getting popular by that point. And so this is a very well done, middle of the road, grungy power pop album.
I mean, if I shut my eyes and think about what this album would look like, it would be the white lines in the middle of the road. And I'm sorry, D McNally. Thank you for suggesting it. And I love the story behind it. It's way more interesting than listening to the fucking album. Which, frankly, I gotta be honest. I gave it a good few listens. Because I was listening to it and I was thinking, hang on, what doesn't add up here?
Yeah.
It's well produced. Dude's got a nice vocal style. Lyrics are quirky. It's got a vibe. And then I realized I couldn't tell one song from another. They are all Oh God, the album should be called Mid Pace. It is. I mean, we're talking identical time signatures in some songs. That it's just like, oh, is this the song that was before or after? And I gave it a good few listens. And again, Mr. McNally or Miss or Mrs. or let's just say person, human, whatever you are, I don't know. But I'm just terrified of getting cancelled. I feel for you because the thing is, you've suggested this, and this is 10 years after an album that was released, that should have been released 12 years previously. So it's very hard to listen to this and go and really see anything worthwhile in it, because every aspect of it is done way better by a myriad of other bands. And the one thing that I cannot forgive it for, is that I got to a point where I was listening to it and I just turned around and I just went, oh, fuck off. Just fuck off. Yeah, you're not funny, you're not witty, you're not clever, you're not cute, you're not catchy, you're not fast, you're not slow, you're not interesting. You are fucking average at best. Average is a compliment. Hippo Tractor, right, are fucking Rush compared to this album. It is just pointless, worthless. And if I was at that record label, I would have fucking demanded my money back. I would have hunted down the family and children of the band members, had them all taken out. That's well after the band members had been tortured for a long time. I realize I'm going off on a little bit. I'm just going to row. I probably just want to just row back from that a little bit. It's so fucking average. It hurt my ears. There was they get diseases in places where the sun doesn't shine. Oh, fuck off! just fuck off. Do you know? It was this attempt to be all fucking Ian Jury and also like, oh, this is a joke, but are you in on it? Some people won't get it. No, we all get it. You're not clever. You're not funny, and this is shit. And first track in. I was like, I know this song. I know this song. Oh, okay, yeah, no, I don't know it well. I know I've heard it. Still the best song on it. And I couldn't tell you much about any of the other songs because there was, and the whole album was just fucking, the whole album was just like, whatever. It's just like, oh, really? Do you know? It was like hanging out with somebody where you're making all the effort. Do you know what I mean? It's like like this. If this album is a girl, you're trying. It's basically your mate has copped off with the other girl, your wingman, and there's no attraction between the two of you whatsoever. So you've got to try and find some common ground so the next few hours aren't fucking painful because you can't leave and abandon your mate and she can't leave and abandon your mate. So it's effectively a temporary marriage of inconvenience. And that's what listening to this album felt like, a temporary marriage of inconvenience. And I had enough in the end. I was just like, oh yeah, just fuck off. So sorry, McNally. It's a massive fucking miss. And the other thing as well is so one-paced. There's nothing slow. There's nothing fast. There's no change of tempo. Everything is so bloody nice.
Let me stop you there because there actually are changes in pace. There are a couple of faster songs and a couple of slower songs, but I think the thing that you're running into is that the sequencing of the album and the way the songs play out, it's so samey to what other bands had already done that it's almost like, they were writing an album and said, well, this part needs a bit that goes this speed. And now it's song number 4. Let's do one that's slightly faster now and a 4/4 beat, faster. And so I hear where they were trying to make it an album with some different levels, but the levels are all the same levels. It's like a preset from a different band where they just put the template down and said, all right, well, here's what we need to write to make a proper album in this style of of rock that we're doing,
Well, it takes something to piss me off when in fact the album is kind of good time. It's kind of up, it's kind of positive, and it's kind of like, and I found it jading to listen to. It was like, Jesus, this belongs in the dustbin of history. We're trying to forget stuff like this, or at least
I'm not as my reaction wasn't as negative as yours, because I really do. Honestly, my opinion.
I don't think anyone's will be.
my opinion of both of the albums are literally identical for their identical things that they were doing. Where I'm both like, these are fine, and then that's as far as I can go. Like, I don't want to listen to either one of these albums again.
I would personally. I mean, if I'm, it's like it's a between the two, it's like it's Hippo Tractor all day. Because to me there is potential there, and there's clearly they're good at what they do.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't even think these guys are. I didn't think best kisses in the world. Well, maybe. Definitely not the best songwriters or musicians in the world, by a long way. And it just, like I said, I found it jading, and I felt like I was trapped in a room with it at one point.
So I think for listeners and viewers out there that this may be more of a thing that they would enjoy. I would equate it to, like, I'm really into the 80s thrash metal sound. There are a lot of bands that I really enjoy that only put out 1 or 2 albums that put out very middle of the road thrash metal, to where I can't really highly suggest it one way or the other, but I really enjoy it because they make that sound that I like. So if you're a fan of that mid-90s, mid-tempo, not quite pop punk, not quite heavy, power pop-ish kind of thing that's like post-grunge, if you're into that sound and you just want more of that sound, this album is the way to go, because it's not gonna totally blow your mind, but if that's really what you love, then this is probably one to go for.
You're a fair and reasonable man, and my description is, if you're looking for something with less depth than Blink 182, you fucking found it. I didn't know it was possible until now. And also, if you are listening to this, this is not. Sorry, if you are listening, I fucking hope someone is. But if you're listening to this,
is anybody out there?
No way am I submitting something for these guys. Believe you me, if we go all in on something, I'll be as praising it, from the heavens, the same way that I, admittedly was a bit over harsh on fuck it.
I would expect nothing less from you, sir. Okay?
Yeah, but I do tend to go one way or the other. And with Hippo Tractor, it was a bit damning, but remember, I did bring it back round. I do think they are capable. I think they're capable of having great things in them. Yeah, and sometimes you have to, you have to try and see past what you're given. But with something like Best Kisses in the World, it was fully deserving. If there's one thing that I cannot stand, it's that middle of the road. It's stuff that makes you go, well, whatever. But then if you listen to whatever one too many times, you end up shouting and telling it to fuck off, and your neighbors knock on your door and ask if you're all right.
All right. So, but on that note, please send us your suggestions. for albums, if we're going to continue this segment for the next episode. To be completely honest, I actually am enjoying this more than classic albums, because I feel like we have a lot more to talk about. Because if we both sit here and go, yeah, Ride the Lightning, great album, right? Yeah, it's a great album, cool. And it's nothing new. We're not offering anything new to anybody.
Well, look, classic albums got us off the ground, and Scott came along and recognized a weakness in the format and addressed it with a cool idea. And again, the Scott Bamford feature. Thanks again, Scott. I feel a bit bad about Hippo Tractor, but kind of not. And if any of you want to, put your suggestions, you can put comments below in the video if you're watching on Old Head's YouTube channel, or you can tweet Talking Bollocks. You can Facebook Talking Bollocks. You can Instagram Talking Bollocks, and
we both have all the Instagrams and Twitters. So if anywhere that you want to comment your suggestion, but I think we said this in the 20-minute video that we played before this. Choose one album. Everybody choose one album, because it's easier for us to weed through it, because if it's one person, Scott Bamford, who wants to suggest 50 albums, it gets a little bit more difficult to figure it out. So choose one that you think we're going to like. Now that you know that we're tough customers.
It got to a stage where I did think that this is all the albums that Scott owns. And he's just suggested them all. I'm only joking, Scott. But
have you heard Thriller by Michael Jackson? Let's talk about that.
But also, as you will have noticed from the way that we chose the albums, it's definitely worth including, the story of the album. And that can be that could be why you like it. That could be the backstory, because we chose Best Kisses in the World because we were both like, this album was kept under wraps for 12 years. Wow, we got to hear that. And then when we heard it, we went, wow, I can see why this was kept under wraps for 12 years. Could have seen that one coming. Couple of idiots. So if you want to include it, you don't have to, but whatever. And we are grateful for all of the the suggestions we received. And don't think that you can only suggest one album 1 month, one per podcast. Yeah, one per podcast. But I can guarantee Scott's going to be back with another album for the next episode. And I don't think D McNally is going to be back suggesting anything. Maybe I'm wrong. D, hit us up. Suggest something else. No. I feel bad. I feel like you need to suggest another album. We can go, well, this is really cool.
I'm sure he will. But also these guys, like they were the first in. So
first in, best dressed.
Yeah, not everybody gets to say that. So they were in on the ground floor of the Scott Bamford review segment, or whatever we're going to call it. Hang on. So D McNally and Scott Bamford were in on the ground floor of the Scott Bamford feature. Yeah, that's true.
I think we sorry, Scott, but we are going to come up with a name for this feature eventually.
Oh, really?
Now, oh, okay. Fuck it. No, we'll leave it.
Scotty B section. I don't know.
Credit where it's due. Yeah, we'll just come up with stupid nicknames for Scott each week.
If I have the time, I'm just gonna make an entire intro thing with maybe some horns and stuff, and it comes up and it'll say the Scott Bamford review section. Action.
Well, make sure you send me the audio of that.
I'm kind of lazy.
Podcast.
But yeah, so on that note, that's it.
No, it isn't.
It's not. What else are we doing? What else are we doing?
Well, I was so hoping you forgot.
I did forget.
So, audience and everybody out there, you'll remember what I mentioned in the last episode. Oh, Old Head's looking at his notes. No notes are going to save you now. You are now going to listen to Old Head's review of the entire Billy Talent back catalogue.
Oh, good. No, I did not forget about this. Okay.
Okay.
So,
See, I mean, not the whole catalog. How did you get on with them? Did anything change your mind, or talk to me?
I will agree that the thing. I only really heard the first 3 albums.
Right. Okay. Cool.
I will agree they're all better than that new album. I'm going to agree with you there. But here's what happened. I went through it's almost like a roller coaster of emotions, because the first 4 tracks on Billy Talent 1 are fantastic. It falls off real quick after that. Now it's not that it doesn't recover, because the thing that I've learned about Billy Talent, especially, and it declines in quality from album 2 and album 3, from album 1 is the best shit that I heard. But I've learned that they are guys, they seem to be a band of really talented dudes that know how to craft really interesting songs and only decide to do it half of the time. And so that's what it literally was a whiplash of how I felt about certain, like if you take the first song on Billy Talent 1, and the first one on Billy Talent 2, I was like, are they not even trying now? Like, because it went from being really exciting to being like, this is
I think Billy Talent 2 is better than the first album.
Oh, I know. Here's the thing, like I understand why people would be really into them. And I think what I've learned is the things that I don't like about them are the things that seem directly connected to pop punk. Because I hear things that go, oh, you could have played this song right after a Good Charlotte song or a Sum 41 song, and it may be better in quality, but it's definitely connected to that sound. And it bums me out when they make really cool songs or I almost go, I don't even know what genre to put this in. Like and then there's other ones where I go, this is too much of same old shit that was already going on in 2001, 2, 3, 4.
Well, if you've got the stomach for it, one album that is really worth a listen is the album that is previous to the most recent album. It's the album called Afraid of Heights. Okay. And that is their very first self-produced album. And I mean, I think it's not far off their best work, because it's like fair call about the first 3 albums. By the time they get to album 4 and 5, the pop punk bits and pieces to me tend to have sort of faded away a bit more, and it's becoming and I think Billy Talent and the Billy Talent sound and everything is actually perfected on Afraid of Heights. It's a great album, and it's a truly beautiful vinyl as well.
You know what? I have to be fair about this too. I do feel like when I was listening to the first album, I did think to myself, you know what? If I had heard this in 2001, I might be a really big fan today. Yeah. So I think the problem is that I'm not in the right headspace, because honestly, the kind of shit that I was listening to in 2001, that would have been right up my alley.
So what you're saying is, for D. McNally, see Best Kisses in the World. For Old Head, see Billy Talent. Except you just didn't get to hear. You didn't get to hear it when it came out.
Yeah, because there are things about it that I like now, but there are things that I go, man, at that time period, I may have been really, really into this.
I can absolutely get that, because I've been in since day one. And I'm lucky enough to call the band my friends now. And that's awesome. I completely, like, Stilly, Kev's brother, was like, oh, I'm going to be coming in town so and so. And he always gives me a call when he's going to be in town, and we meet up. And I was like, all right, who are you working with? He said, oh, I'm working with this Canadian band called Billy Talent. I was like, fucking what? He's like, oh, I'm working with this band. And I was like, yeah. I love them. And so I've seen them grow from playing the Underworld in Camden to selling out the Brixton Academy. And I've been on that journey with them. And they're lovely guys. They are truly lovely guys. And you know, I love the band. I love the band. But I can absolutely see that it's like it's a ride you may have needed to be on at the beginning. But again, I would, if you get a chance, because I know there's a lot of music around, but if you get a chance, have a little listen to Afraid of Heights, because there's some just fantastic stuff on that.
Also, I was meaning to also go see if I could see some live footage of them, because that sometimes also helps my opinion on bands like that. Because there are some bands that, you know, put out music that, like, I don't know, a good example. There's the band The Bronx. I know you've probably heard them before. I'm not their stuff gives me the same vibe where I go, this is not really anything that excites me. But I saw them live and I'm like, that was fun as fuck. So I don't know. So there's part of me that sometimes I'll go search out live bands and go, all right, let's see, is this going to be the thing that takes me over if I see them and go, I get what they're doing here. Because the personality of the band goes a long way with me. And so far I've literally just listened to albums looking at an album cover. So that's kind of as far as it's gone.
Cool, man. Well, look, I'm, I feel like I'm beating you over the head here until you submit to the ways of Billy Talent. You said it earlier. I think that really is it now. I think that definitely is it. It is done
until next month.
Yes.
Everybody put in your suggestions for albums next month, and we probably won't be nice about those either. Who knows?
I mean, look, hit us up everywhere. You know where it is. You know where we are. We're not hard to find. So send us your suggestions and keep listening and spread the word as well. And sign up at patreon.com/Howard H. Smith. Make sure you subscribe to the Old Head YouTube channel. If you're watching this, hi, subscribe. See the button that says subscribe? Click that and fucking subscribe. And if you click it and nothing happens, it means you haven't signed in. So you need to sign in to YouTube, yeah? And then subscribe, you dickhead. Anyway, that's for the people. For those of you who are already getting this in your podcast feed, I'm presuming you've already subscribed. So thank you very much for that. You're the Talking Bollocks Army. You're the Movie Bollocks Army. And you're now the Old Bollocks Army. So make sure you share and spread the word, because it's only fair. If we're going to review your albums, the least you can do, if we're going to root through your record collections, yeah, the least you can do is tell a few people that we've been rooting through your record collection. That's fair enough, isn't it?
Yep.
Cool. Until next time. See you later, guys.